is the Jayhawker Podcast, presented by the University of Kansas Health System.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jayhawker Podcast. My name is Nate Bucati, and it's great to have you with us as there are a lot of great things going on at the University of Kansas when it comes to the athletics department right now, and we're going to break some of those things down for you here today. I want to let you know, we want to thank our sponsors. We are brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System, by Black & Veatch, and by the Next Generation 10G Network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. And I mentioned there's a lot of great things happening with Kansas athletics right now. We just had late night this past weekend. The Kansas football team got a big win against Houston over the past weekend, and now they're getting ready for the Dillon Sunflower Showdown. We're going to talk to Devin Neal, running back for the Kansas Jayhawks, who was on the precipice of the all-time rushing record at the University of Kansas. And the volleyball program out to a 7-0 start in league play. They're 16-1 on the season. They have certainly been a joy to watch as well. We're going to speak with their head coach, Bechard. And so without further ado, I want to bring in our first guest on the show. And as I mentioned, this is a man he's already made history as a running back at the University of Kansas, and he's got even more history to come. His name is Devin Neal. You know him as one of the best running backs in all of college football right now. Devin's courteous enough to join us and give us some of his time today. Devin, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me first. And, thanks for the great introduction. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's all well-deserved. And I was telling you this before we took the air on this podcast. I'm dating myself a little bit here. But I was in college at the University of Kansas when June Henley was the running back under Glenn Mason, and a team that went to a couple of Aloha Bowls, had some big wins. And I remember watching that Jayhawk team win some games like against teams like Colorado, who were ranked highly at the time. I told you about how they almost beat Nebraska when he was a freshman and he had a huge game. So I know how good of a running back he was. And I know the history of the running backs at the University of Kansas. So I'm curious for you, just to even be in that category with running backs like that, what does it mean to you? And the fact that you're this close to a record that would put your name down in history, what does that mean to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, it means a ton to me, just it was kind of one of my dreams, coming into this thing in 2021, just wanting to be remembered as one of the best to come through here and, truly just make my mark in this program and, just get it back on track. And, even in 2021 as a freshman, I couldn't even imagine being able to come close to these great running backs, like Gale Sayers and John Riggins and June Henley, the names you just keep on hearing. And, just being so close and knocking on the door to those records, it means a ton to me. And, I'm truly honored and truly humble and blessed to be in this position.
I was actually talking to your head coach, Lance Leipold, this morning. We're recording this podcast on a Tuesday, and on our morning show on Sports Radio 810 WHB, New Day with SHA, and I told him I was going to be interviewing you, and so I asked him, what should I know about Devin? What don't I already know? Because I feel like a lot's been written and said about you already. And one of the things that he said was, look, really the conversation about you coming back for your senior year, there were a lot of different things and motivations for you, but that the biggest one was you wanted to be on track to graduate in December, and that the academic part was really, really important to you. And I'm curious, man, what you could tell me about that. How did that play in? How's that process going for you, and why is that so important to you?
Yeah, I just, it was one of the things, I kind of promised my mom, honestly, just graduating from college in general, and not too many people in my family graduated. My mom and my dad did, but, past then, not too many people in my family graduated from college. So it's an extreme honor for me to graduate with that paper and that degree. So that was another big part for me. And, there was a lot of things that motivated me to come back, but, that was kind of, up there with one of the most special ones and doing a lot for my family and, for my future as well, and it's just one of those big things for me.
So look, life has a way of humbling you at times when I feel like, I'm starting to feel really good about things.
Mm-hmm.
It has a way of propping you up maybe when you need it as well, but also you have plans and they don't always work out the way that you want. You've had some incredible highs with your time at the University of Kansas, but obviously this season hasn't started off the way that you guys would have envisioned. And I'm curious for you, a person that puts so much into it and it matters so much. Have you had any thoughts like, man, why is this happening to me? Like why we had some of these bad breaks, things like that through the course of what's supposed to be my senior year? How have you handled that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for anyone, it'd be frustrating, right? And But at the end of the day, I'm a leader, I'm a captain of this team, and they're relying on me to be level headed and be the calming voice through the storm. And I've been just that, just looking for the advice from many coaches and other guys on the team, like what is it that we need to do to get better. And so just spending extra time in the practice, after practice, and film, more recovery, just doing more is what's necessary for me. And I don't really go into many things with regret, and so that was a big thing for me, is just not wondering why me, or woe is me, and wondering maybe I should have left last year. No, those thoughts haven't crept into my mind at all, because I know what I was in it for. And so yeah, I mean, just when you remember kind of the why and why you do things, it kind of helps propel you forward and keep you motivated.
I feel like the biggest growth in life happens during the toughest moments. How much have you grown as a leader through some of these challenges this year? And is there anything you can pinpoint, a moment or two that you're like, man, I actually have grown as a person because of going through this?
Yeah, I mean, I would just kind of say that as my tenure in general, at this university, and obviously started out, my first season was 2-10, and so
Mm.
obviously we had a lot of expectations going into the season, and it didn't go our way. But at the end of the day, just these are lessons you kind of learn throughout life. Is so what? You, at the end of the day, you can't quit. You got to keep going, whether that's your family one day or your job one day. These are just important things that you have to understand. Is if everyone could do it, they would just simply do it when it's easy. And
Mhm.
um, just one of those things, even through adversity, just remaining humble and just understanding that obviously we make mistakes, but these are correctable mistakes, and it's insane really think about the margin of error that we have in these games that we've been losing. It's come down to literally one or two plays in a game that's lost us this game. So understanding that we if we fix those things, the sky's the limit for the rest of the season. And we kind of broke up this season into two different seasons for us, and just a full mental reset, and to do what we need to do to be successful for the back half of the season.
I mean, and it seems like that certainly happened against Houston. What a performance that was for the whole team. Did you feel like some of those things started clicking with that? And not just because of the result, but because of the
Yeah.
way you guys played through the course of the game.
Yeah, I would just say, that was the first game all season where, all phases was kind of in sync, and from special teams to defense to offense, for offense capitalizing on all the turnovers that the defense got, and obviously the defense creating those turnovers and then no big plays on special teams. That's the recipe for success, and we got to continue doing that and focusing on the small details and all these phases. Because especially going into this week, we know how good K-State is, especially in the special teams realm. So we got to be good in all phases again. And that's our biggest chance to win any game, especially in this conference where any team could be any team in any given week. So we're prepared, we're excited, we're ready to play.
And this obviously is a big rivalry for everybody in your program, but for somebody like you who grew up around it, and it has been through it a few times,
Mhm.
can you put into words what this game means to you personally?
Yeah, obviously, just it being a rival and me being a hometown guy and being a KU guy my whole life, I know how big this game is. And that's what sometimes people can get too wrapped up into as well. At some point you kind of have to separate and say that it is just a game against the next opponent, so you don't get into an emotional whirlwind and you're not ready and you're not prepared and you're trying to go out there and just do everyone's job. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to settle down and do what you're supposed to do each play, so that you can be successful for your team. And I think when we kind of understand that and we just focus on doing our job and doing our 1% each play, that would come with more success for sure.
I want to take you back to the Dylan Sunflower Showdown from last year when you had an incredible game individually, but one of the big storylines was you had injuries all over the place at the quarterback position, and Cole
Yeah.
Ballard was a player with very little experience. He's got a big last name because his dad is a front office man in the NFL and all that. But as fans, those of us watching had no idea what to expect from him in the game. And obviously, the result didn't turn out the way you guys wanted to, but you were very much in position to win that game. What are the things
Yeah.
that stand out to you when you think back to that performance last year?
Yeah, I mean, I just believe that everything was just kind of in sync. Just like I said previously, just we made a lot of big plays on offense, and obviously on defense we got a lot of stops. And so we kind of have to go into this game with the same type of mindset, and obviously it kind of got away from us when we beat ourselves. And that's kind of the theme for this season, even though it happened last season. It's a lot of those same mistakes and a lot of those errors that come back to haunt you, especially against good teams, and those can't happen against good teams. And so we understand that. Obviously, we went back and watched the film to see, what works against them, and just doing some review stuff. But yeah, for us to be successful in this game, we got to limit our mental errors and the mistakes that, inevitably lead us to a loss.
We're visiting with Devin Neal as his Kansas Jayhawks will be taking on Kansas State in the Dillon Sunflower Showdown coming up on Saturday at 7 o'clock. That's a game you can listen to on Sports Radio 810 WHB, of course. And I want to start having some fun with you now, Devin. We've talked football. That's all great. And we're all rooting for you to get that record and get a big win this coming weekend. But I want to talk a little off the field stuff. You mentioned that this graduation, was a big thing and a promise that you made to your parents. I want to talk about school life a little bit.
Okay.
What was the most interesting class that you've taken in your time at the University of Kansas?
Oh, I'm in this religion class. It's interesting.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I would just say it's interesting just understanding a lot of different viewpoints, I guess, and just, kind of understanding the connection. A lot of it's about connection between, religion and people and the earth, and it's interesting. So I'll probably just go with that one because I haven't taken too many interesting courses, but I'll go with that one.
Okay. So is it like a living religions of the world where you're studying a whole bunch of different religions?
It's similar to that, like not necessarily studying those religions, but kind of like, I guess the ideology a lot around a
Yeah.
lot of it, and why it's connected between different humans and the earth and animals and all types of things.
Okay. That sounds fascinating. Have you had any moments where like, oh man, that just changed the way I look at the world? That deep?
Not too much,
Not so much.
not
Okay.
so much. Yeah.
Um, what about the actual moment of graduation itself? Have you spent much time thinking about that, and what that'll look like for you and what you'll be feeling on that day?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm graduating in spring, which is challenging because I'm
Yeah.
obviously trying to prepare for the NFL next spring. But yeah, I just in general just really excited. I just it's one of those events where your whole family's going to be there, and it's kind of my last hurrah. Obviously, I'm very thankful to be done with school in general, but it's just going to be really exciting. To be one of the few members of my family, graduate from college, and I'm gonna look back on it and be super blessed for the moment, just staying and enjoying all the small little happy moments of college that college gives you. And yeah, it would be a really good day for me for sure.
Have you it's hard to say when you haven't lived outside of that college universe yet, but have you thought about like aside from football, presumably that's still going to be a big part of your life even after
Yeah.
you graduate. What things about college do you think you'll miss the most?
I mean, football in itself, just the brotherhood in general is just something that I'll never forget. And, I've met some friends in college that, will be with me for the remainder of my life, and those are the type of moments that I strive for and building those connections. And I would just, in general, just all the connections that you make in general in class and, having fun outside of ball and obviously on the team. Those are some of the moments I'll never forget. It's easy to say, you'll remember these games and even so, I probably won't ever forget some of these games that I've played in, but the connections and the friendships that I've built throughout college is definitely something that I'm a saver and I'm going to be blessed for forever.
And we're visiting with Devin Neal. So you talked about getting ready for the combine and all that. Who are were you just a diehard NFL fan growing up? You know what I mean? Like, did you sit down on Sundays and watch all the games and everything?
I was actually more of a diehard college football
Oh,
fan.
really?
Yeah. Yeah,
What's up?
that
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, I just think there was an emphasis in my household on college, like Saturdays. It's just
Yeah.
obviously my family and I, watch Sundays, and probably part of it was I'm a big Chiefs fan, and growing up the Chiefs were kind of going through a rough
Yeah.
patch, but until I got older, obviously in high school where they're on the streak they're on now, and so not more recently we became back NFL family, but definitely college football Saturdays, man. I mean. I have a lot of knowledge about college football players for whatever reason, just
Okay.
from many different colleges. So yeah.
So who were some of your favorite college football running backs when you were a kid? Do you
Oh,
remember?
yeah, absolutely. D'Anthony Thomas,
Okay.
Dalvin Cook, TJ Yeldon from Alabama.
Yep.
Huge fan. That's what actually one of the reasons him and Dalvin Cook are one of the reasons why we're at number 4.
Okay.
Um, in high school, I was a big ETN fan. That's my favorite running back in the league right now.
Okay.
Big McCaffrey fan. I can go down the list. Adrian Peterson. I can keep going all day. So
See, now I find this interesting because you're listing very different styles of running backs. At
yeah,
first when you went with D'Anthony Thomas, Chief player for a while, by the way.
Yep.
And Dalvin Cook, I'm thinking of explosive, elusive guys. But
Yeah.
then you started listing off Adrian Peterson and Etienne, and these are guys that are physical, big, powerful running backs. So it's not like there's just one style that you appreciate. It doesn't sound like as a running back.
Man, I just appreciate and just love watching, running backs work, and obviously each running back has their own style and you can kind of nitpick and try to increase your game, but I just love the how different a lot of these running backs are and what makes them special, and obviously these are, one of a kind running backs that I'm speaking about, and obviously a lot had a lot of influence on me. So I just take appreciation to the art of it, and not too many people can understand that until you actually are in the position. So
I'll tell you what, I was the sideline reporter for the Kansas football team for 11 years. I was a mediocre high school athlete at best and not the biggest guy. And standing down on the sideline of a Division I football game the first time in my life, I remember seeing a collision. It was actually June Henley. When I was in college, I was doing the
mhm.
sidelines, and I saw and heard a collision between him and a linebacker just on like a
Yeah.
play right up the middle. And I was like, I wouldn't be able to get up and walk away from that. Like I don't think the physicality of what you do is
Yeah,
is something that I don't know that many people really appreciate. You know what I mean? Like, is
right.
that
Yeah.
is that one of the things that you appreciate about watching other guys in that position?
I mean, me personally, I'm not gonna appreciate, just hurting every day after the game.
Right.
But, I mean, it's just part of the game, and you have to adapt to that. And that's why you see, a lot of people kind of tap into a whole different person almost on football in it, because you have to. You have to be a physical specimen, you have to go out there and literally have to go hit another person. And so yeah, I mean it's fun all around though. And you definitely appreciate it more when you're watching. Definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's just unique. It's just a unique game.
I was talking to John Riggins actually one time about this. You mentioned him earlier as one of the all-time, and everybody thought of him as this big physical running back, which he was, hard to tackle. But I asked him about how he stayed healthy through a career of taking hits like that. And he said, I actually always found that if you could use your angles right, most of the hits could be more glancing blows instead
Yes.
of just, going hitting somebody,
Right.
straight head to head. People love seeing that, but if you can just move your shoulders a little bit and
Yeah.
take a glancing blow, is that something you feel like you've got a natural instinct for yourself?
Yes, like it's funny to say, but there's an art to getting tackled. And
Yeah.
and that's how you prevent, the big hits and the big injuries and stuff like that. Obviously, there's certain things that are just uncontrollable, right? But,
Mhm.
for the most part, I avoid big hits by the way that I press defenders' leverages. And, we always talk about attack the soft shoulder. So attacking one shoulder versus trying to attack down the middle of a man. And, that those are just simple things that, can A, either help you break a tackle, or B, prevent big hits against yourself and help protect yourself.
You called it an art when you said you like watching all these other running backs. What maybe what's the one thing you appreciate the most about a great running back when you watch him play? Vision, awareness, quickness. Like what stands out to you the most? You're like, man, I love seeing that in a running back.
I would probably say vision and cutting ability.
Yeah.
Those are two things that, I believe that you have to watch a lot of film to do that and know your own scheme personally.
Mhm.
And, you have to understand like this blocking scheme is supposed to go here and we're supposed to get there, and you have to trust it. And then you just see those running backs trust it, cut, and then make another cut. Those are always impressive to me. And I love watching that. I can watch it all day.
The other night I was watching Monday Night Football. The Ravens were playing, and Derrick Henry's still out there doing his thing
Yep.
and running over people. But they were talking about how he could still have this explosion at this stage in his career after all the hits he's taken. And they were talking about the regimen he goes through the day after a game, and it's like all day long from cupping treatments to
Yeah.
all these different things that he does. And I'm curious, like everybody's got a different situation. You're not at the NFL level at this point yet, but what is a day after a game like for you?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. It's all recovery, right? And because you have to turn around your body to get prepared for the next week. It's like a never-ending cycle, and so you have to just find ways. Obviously, there's going to be more spots than others that are hurting a little bit more, and you probably highlight those. But for the most part, it's almost like a full body recovery day. And you have to spend a lot of time on it. And obviously, Derrick Henry, being as big and physical as he is, there's a reason why he's been able to stay in the league for so long and do some special things. And so that's a very small part of it. And obviously he treats his body very well.
Devin, it seems like you've done just about everything right in your college football career. It's really been a joy to watch you and pursue these records as well. And I know there's much more to come through the rest of this season and a big one coming up on Saturday. So I just want to say thank you very much for the time. Good luck on Saturday, and congratulations on everything you've already done and all the great stuff that's yet to come.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Hey, that's Devin Neal, and I'm telling you, there's a great history of running backs at the University of Kansas. And so for this man to be able to say best one to ever do it, I mean, that's the kind of statistically, that's what we're talking about when it comes to Devin Neal, which is pretty darn impressive. And of course, he's got a big game leading the Jayhawks into Manhattan, Kansas on Saturday for the Dillon's Sunflower Showdown. That was a really fun conversation. I love hearing him talk about all these different, you could tell he's a student of the running back position and what makes people great at that position as well. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Kansas volleyball. Coach Ray Bechard will be joining us as the Jayhawks on the volleyball circuit are doing some incredible things as well. That's as we continue with the Jayhawker Podcast. And once again, we are presented by Kansas Health Systems, Black and Veatch as well. And the next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now.
Xfinity here. How can we help?
There are so many football games streaming this season. Can Xfinity Internet handle it?
Oh, we know the game is only live once, so we built a network with all-pro speeds and low lag so you don't miss a snap.
What about buffering? I won't tolerate a delay of game.
Don't worry, we created a network you can rely on. So if you're yelling at the TV, it's not the connection, it's the refs.
Is it enough for a family of football superfans?
Oh yeah, you can count on a strong connection even if they're streaming a different game on every device in your home.
So I can yell, "He's open!" when he's actually open?
Well, yeah, but the quarterback still can't hear you.
Xfinity is the best way to power game day with super fast speeds and low lag. Switch to Xfinity Internet and TV and enjoy instant access to your favorite live sports with the Xfinity Stream app. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed. Streaming content limited to the U.S. Programming subject to change.
I had this patient. His cancer treatment had him in the hospital for a while. One day, he was telling me about his grandson and how a big night was coming up for him. So we arranged to make it a big night for my patient too. I sometimes wonder if I'm doing all I can. Then I help make a moment like this possible, and I know I am.
And we continue on the Jayhawker Podcast. We are brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System, by Black and Veatch, and by the next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Just had a great conversation with Devin Neal as the football team are going for a big matchup against Kansas State in the Dillon Sunflower Showdown this weekend. And look, there's just a lot of great things happening around Kansas athletics right now. And at the top of the list, I think you have to say the Kansas volleyball program. Boy, they are off to a heck of a start. It's more than a start, really, this season. They are playing very well and into the middle of league play. And to talk about that with us right now is the head coach of the volleyball program, Ray Bechard. Coach, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the time. How are you?
We're doing well. Like you said, pretty excited about our start, but really excited about the weekend Kansas Athletics just had. You know, football team certainly, I think, played to an expectation that everybody's been hoping and working towards. And then women's golf had a great weekend. Soccer won a couple. Volleyball's doing well. So there's a lot to be excited about.
We also had a person that bears your last name hit another half-court shot at late night. And, look, we're going to get to the volleyball because that's far more important. But you need to take credit for this, right? Did you teach him this shot form? I mean, is this all you?
We worked a little bit before we went out there on a couple things. No, actually, I was out of town, but phone got pretty busy about 30 minutes after late night was over. And no, it's been fun. He's come through on a couple occasions in that situation. So it's pretty cool to see and pretty fun for Coach Self to be such a good sport in that situation.
Yeah, I think it's 3 times now.
Yeah, it is 3. The first one was kind of like, wow. And I think it was maybe back-to-back years where now coach gives him a couple of shots at it, a couple attempts to make it happen. So it's a cool way to kind of wrap up what I understand was a really fun late night.
Yeah, it's certainly really fun, and Brendan does an amazing job, and it's just really, really a cool thing. Let's talk about your program, though. I mentioned it. You guys are 7-0 in the league. Your only loss is to Creighton, which is one of the top programs in the entire country as well. Maybe for our fans, if they're not up to speed on and look, expectations this year as well. You know, picked to win the league by many people coming into this season as well. What would you say, if you had to sum it up, is making your side so successful so far this year? What has you most excited about the program?
Well, we've got a nice mix. We're an older team. We're experienced with, got Cam Turner, who's been running the show for us at Setter now for her 4th year. London Davis, pretty much a 3-4 year starter. El Nadis and Caroline Bien, along with Toyosi on a banjo, who is a transfer, but has been in the lineup for 2 years. So along with Bryn McGee, that core that's been in it for a while. You know, they've been to 3 NCAA tournaments. They played at a high level. So that really sets the stage for us. But then we've had this influx of people who have had a new opportunity, and people like Ryan Swanson, and then this freshman class, which was very highly regarded, with Zoe Burgess and Reese Patak, who have played well, Grace Nelson, and others in that class. So I think it's a nice mix of veteran players plus some new exciting talent. I know they worked hard through the summer. We were able to take a foreign trip in May, which I think really served us well. 12 days, competing 6 times. There was a lot of camaraderie there. So there's been a lot of really cool things happen, and then we played well in the right time in the big moments so far.
I want to talk about Cam Turner a little bit more. You mentioned her, and I was talking to a friend of mine and one of your broadcasters, Jill Hall, who's does a great job covering the volleyball program, and she was raving to me about Cam Turner. And she even said that one time last year, Coach Self did a halftime interview and was like, I don't know much about volleyball, but she's one of the best players out there. I can tell that just by watching. And Jill was telling me her story, not maybe the most highly recruited kid coming out of Topeka Seaman High School, but has turned herself into this tremendous player. What can you tell us about her and what makes her so special?
Yeah, she came to camp throughout her high school career. And what I thought was really unique is there was times we would have her stay after, or a couple kids stay after and play with our team. And she kind of morphed into whatever she needed to be in that moment. So if you would have walked in from the outside, you would have never known, hey, there's a sophomore or junior in high school, because she kind of fit in wherever she needed to. And, you're right. She had one Division I offer. That was Kansas. At the time, I don't think it was a huge recruiting splash when she committed. But it was obvious to us after she'd been here for about a month that she was going to be the one for us. If we were going to get better, she was going to be out there running the show. So she played all positions in high school. So she passed a little bit. She attacked. Great server, great back row defender. So I think she sees the game through setting eyes, but also eyes of people in other positions, which I think is pretty mission critical. And I think Coach Self did compare her favorably, or maybe more than favorably, even to his own point guard, DeJuan Harris, in how he kind of sees the game, and he makes people around him better. And that's certainly what Cam Turner does. It'd be hard pressed for me in my 27th year to find a more complete volleyball player in all areas of the game. The way she competes from the service line, she's a above average blocker for her size, one of the best right back defenders I've ever coached. And then obviously she's leading the Big 12 and top 5, top 10 in the country in assists per set. So she's complete. She's a joy to coach, and she's the very best teammate. So boy, the Jayhawks, I don't think there's any doubt why we've been on the rise, and our trajectory's been upward ever since she kind of took over for us.
It's great that you mentioned the comparison to DeJuan Harris, because that was what I was thinking of as soon as you described kind of her journey as a player with one Division I scholarship offer. And, I think we all love that underdog story, the person who wasn't expected to do these great things that delivers even higher than anybody thought they would. Why was she underappreciated? Why was she underrated, coming out? What did people miss about her?
Yeah, I think she had a loyalty to a club in the Topeka area that was not nationally recognized or nationally known. And people from other clubs tried to get her to join, but that's another thing that really attracted me to her is just her loyalty to a club and some of the kids that she'd played with growing up. So I don't know that she got the national exposure that she would have gotten otherwise. So I just think she was a little bit under the radar. I know my buddy over at Washburn desperately wanted her to join his program over there, but we saw something there certainly that we thought could be pretty special, and maybe a little bit undersized for her position, some people think, but she makes more than makes up for that by how hard she competes, and she's very athletic and got a great volleyball IQ. So we were fortunate I think we might have got her anyway because she was a big Jayhawk fan, but certainly it was a good day for us when that commitment came.
Okay, another player that you referenced, Toyosi Anabanjo, is up for some postseason awards or Player of the Year type awards and all that. And I understand she's picked up a bit of a knock, and that's given some of those freshmen that you referenced, if I understand correctly, an opportunity to get some work in as well. But I guess when she's there, what does she bring to the table? When she's out, what do you miss? And maybe if you could also talk, though, about that opportunity that some of the younger players are getting when she's not there.
Yeah, Toyosi transferred from University of Iowa and had 2 years of eligibility left. Chemical engineering major, which tells you a little bit about her drive academically. But we made a switch from outside right side to middle. We really felt like she could dominate the game in the middle, and she's done that. She plays with passion, and she's a compassionate person. So to end the fourth set against K-State, she had this block that was pretty legendary, and just her reaction to that and how I think the crowd fed upon that and how our team feeds upon that. So the passion she brings is undeniable. She's athletic, dynamic, one of the top attackers and blocker combo middles in the country. So we're extremely excited about how hard she's worked and what she's done. She did get nicked up a little bit in the K-State match, which allowed we have 2 freshman middles and a sophomore middle to get some time at UCF and really do well. Reese Patak, the last month has played as well as any freshman in the country, probably in that position. And then Zoe Burgess, from about the first month on, has been extremely steady too. And then you throw in Aisha Iono, who is a returner. Those 3, though young, have a physical presence and a youthfulness about them that's been really, really valuable to us. So we held on well at UCF on the road with those 3 kind of holding it down, and obviously hoping that Toy will get back soon.
Those 3 you just referenced off, 6'3", 6'4", 6'3". You got some size and athleticism from those young players. And you mentioned that these are highly touted recruits that you brought in as well. I'm curious, look, during your tenure, the program has just grown so much from the facility and the crowds that you guys play in front of and the success you've had. How different is it on the recruiting trail these days for you, considering where this thing has gone with your program over the last few years?
Yeah, we've got some I think some street cred out there now. And that all comes with, you're right. It's associated with winning. And then the environment in our facility, and a volleyball only facility, is extremely attractive to young student athletes as they come in here. So the commitment that this university and this athletic department's made to our volleyball program is not going unnoticed by recruits all over the country. And you mentioned this freshman class. We're talking Chicago. We're talking the Utah, Salt Lake City area. We're talking Wisconsin. So we're talking about different regions, which now Connecticut, Ellie Moore, our backup setter. So I think our brand is starting to travel a bit more nationally because some of the success we've had. And a lot of it has to do with this senior class and what they've done over the last 3 years.
We're visiting with volleyball coach Ray Bechard, and it's really been, I have to say, if you're watching this podcast or listening and you haven't been to a volleyball match at the University of Kansas, the crowds are incredible. The athleticism is incredible. The action is phenomenal. It is certainly something to behold, and I think it's just great to see the way the crowds have been as well. I want to talk to you about what's coming up now, Coach, because as I look at it, you tell me if I'm wrong here, the the schedule only intensifies here going forward. It seems like you're really starting to get into the teeth of that Big 12 schedule. You've got Iowa State coming up, and then number 21, Utah, over the weekend on Saturday. Give us a little bit of a thought on what you see coming up over the next few games for your side.
Yeah, the way the schedule played out, we've got some higher RPI teams on our schedule, Iowa State being one of them, always well coached, very disciplined. They have a competitive confidence about them, and it travels with them. So that'll be quite a challenge for us. And then I think Utah's probably one of the surprises of the league. Good friend of mine, Beth Lanier's been there 30 plus years and has done a great job. So that's an NCAA tournament team. And then certainly we haven't seen the Arizona States yet. We haven't seen the Baylors and TCUs, BYUs. All those guys are ranked. So there's a lot ahead of us. We got a return match with K-State. So we have some great opportunities from a competitive standpoint, a great opportunity from some RPI, KPI standpoint, as our goal is to certainly try to garner a fourth straight NCAA tournament appearance.
This new construct of the league, we're all getting used to it with all these new teams. You just referenced that you haven't seen some of them yet. What do you make of it from the volleyball perspective, the way the conference shakes out now?
Yeah, we added some really quality programs, quality coaches. Arizona State was a Sweet 16 team last year. Utah and BYU got great volleyball tradition, as does Colorado. The luck of the draw is that you get 4 of those teams twice and you get everybody else once. So I know from a regional perspective, it makes sense for us to play K-State and Iowa State twice. For us this year, it was UCF and West Virginia and everybody else once. So, some of the competitive integrity or the competitive balance you could debate, but we're going to see everybody at least once. Sometimes we don't get to play them at home. We play them on the road, but that's the new way of life in some of these mega conferences with multiple teams. So we're going to use our ability to give ourselves a best chance to be one of those teams late in the conference, still standing and hopefully making a run at a conference championship.
And I mentioned it at the outset. And this is my final question for you, Coach. The preseason predictions of winning the Big 12. People remember what you do at the end, not at the beginning. But I'm curious what it's like being a team with the target on your back. Do you feel that, or you feel like you're getting the best shot of your opponents when you face most of these teams this year?
Yeah, we've gone through the handshake line, and we're kind of getting tired of coaches saying, "Hey, that's the best we played." And I'm like, I'm not sure whether that's a compliment or what it is, because we want to play at a level so teams aren't playing so great. But we talk about, Nate, every day we want to get a little bit better, and that's as far as it goes with us. But yeah, certainly, I'm sure we're a big match in a lot of people's schedule, and we're gonna take that same approach. That the most important match we'll play is the next one on our schedule as well.
And that one's coming up against Iowa State, as I mentioned, on Wednesday, 6:30 in Lawrence, Kansas. If you haven't been to one of these matches, you got to go. Coach, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the success, not just this year, but over the past few years, and continued success going forward. And I want to see you take one of these half-court shots sometime. I feel like you might be even more accurate.
That happened at Barton County many, many years ago, but it was for $100, not $10,000. And well, I want you to know the ball went in. But hey. But anyway, Nate, appreciate it, and all you guys are doing, and rock chalk, everybody.
Absolutely, that's Coach Ray Bechard. Inflation is a heck of a thing. From $100 to $10,000, whatever it is. The bottom line, a half-court shot is a half-court shot. I'm telling you, folks, this volleyball team, they are really, really fun to watch. 16-1 on the season, 7-0 in league play, and they've got some big matches coming up. So do yourself a favor and get to one if you haven't been to one already. We're going to wrap things up now on this edition of the Jayhawker Podcast. Our thanks to Devin Neal and Ray Bechard for joining us. I want to remind you we've been brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System, by Black & Veatch, and by the Next Generation 10G Network. Only from Xfinity, the future starts now. We'll see you next time right here on the Jayhawker Podcast.